Hi, good afternoon. My name is Kayla Collins and I currently teach 5th grade, and you can find me on all social media platforms as Teach Like You Mean It, all one word just like it is here. I also have a Teacher Pay Teacher store, same thing, Teach Like You Mean It, and a blog spot, Teach Like You Mean It. Alright, so today I wanted to come on and share about my newest TPT product. And just recently, my husband and I moved into our first home, our first official home that we bought, our first house. And right before we had moved, I had started writing this figurative language skit per request from somebody who wanted a skit that had idioms and alliteration in it. And I kind of forgotten about it, and life got crazy. We were moving, unpacking, we did the floors in our house. It's just been kind of crazy recently. And then yesterday, I went to my computer and I opened it up to do something else, and that skit popped back up. And it just happened to be that I was in a really creative, inspired mood to finish this skit, and so I was really excited. I spent all these hours yesterday finishing it. I have it all done, and it is up today, and it's 30% off. But I wanted to share a little bit about this skit first, just in case you haven't seen these skits or you're curious what this one is about. So I have 4 language skits in my store right now, and 2 of them cover the 8 parts of speech, and then 2 of them cover 8 figurative language pieces. And this one that I just wrote has Onomatopoeia in there, and I know on Facebook Live everything's gonna be backwards a little bit, but every skit comes with these little headbands that are really easy to make. And so we have Onomatopoeia, so whoever has that part can be wearing it. We have alliteration in this skit. We have idiom, and we have oxymoron. So those are the 4 parts that are in here. There's also 4 narrators, and they have headbands as well. And throughout all my skits, everything is color coded. So just like the hat, like let's see, this one is oxymoron and it's in orange. Also, every time in the skit that oxymoron speaks, it's going to be, every time he uses an oxymoron, it's going to be orange. So every time it says oxymoron is orange, every time an oxymoron being used is orange. Same thing with alliteration. Alliteration is pink. So every time alliteration's name is being used is pink. Every time there is an alliteration being used is pink. So that way, everyone who's reading along with the skit, whether their part is alliteration or not, they're seeing that color-codedness so that they see, oh, that's the part that's alliteration, or that's the oxymoron. Also, the person who's wearing the hat has the same color that's matching with it. And it just brings out one more, just an extra little visual in there. Also, if you you can't print in color, there is a black and white copy where all the, like, alliteration name is bold, and every time it's the piece that is the alliteration. So like on one of them, at the very, very beginning, alliteration coming up to the stage, and everyone cheering for alliteration, and alliteration gets to the front, and he or she said, "Thanks, that thunderous applause is a thoughtful thing. I think that warrants 33 thumbs up." So it keeps using that TH sound. So every time there's that TH sound, it's pink, just like the person's name is pink. So they can see that's the alliteration. It's kind of that tongue twister thing that's going with it. But if you can't print in color, you can also, some of the headbands are just black and white, and it prints out like this, and then you cut the strips and then make the headband. So you can just print it on pink paper if you wanted. Or like I said before, you can do the skit in black and white and everything's just bold. Because I know sometimes color isn't an option, even though I love how the color coded makes it just that extra visual, like I said. So this skit comes with a black and white bold version, it comes with a color-coded version, it comes with black and white headbands, and also comes with the headbands that are already the color that match. And these headbands are very simple to make. I'm at home, so I didn't have a paper clip, so I just have one of these big clips, but I've shown before that when you make headbands like this with kids, and you want it to be able to fit several kids' heads, or once you staple it, then it doesn't fit. If you put a little paper clip right here, then you can just move it to make it smaller or bigger, however you want. So then if the kids are sharing, or just in case they have a ponytail or whatever, they can slide it and make it bigger, and then slide it and make it tighter. And I just used one of these clips today since I have a paper clip here. So I want to share a little bit about just a little bit about this skit. So, like I said, there's 4 narrators. At the beginning of all these language skits, there's always 4 narrators, and they're kind of interviewing these different language friends. So they're called the language friend skits, and there's 4 of them, like I said. So the narrators are up there, and they're like, "Welcome, today joining us, we have these 4 new figurative language friends." And they kind of introduce what that even means, because maybe to a lot of kids, they don't even know what figurative would mean. So they're like, "These friends like to take our everyday speech, they like to make it a bit more exciting, a bit more poetic. I think you're gonna love them, let's bring them up." So alliteration is the first one that comes up. Like I said, every time alliteration talks, it's talking in alliteration, so it's kind of these tongue twisters, so that's really fun for kids. So I think this is going to be one of the more popular parts just because they get to talk in tongue twisters the whole time and they're reading out these different things. And like I said, everything color coded. So when they ask like alliteration, tell us about yourself, alliteration talking, and he or she said, my friends and I love flipping. We take fabulous photos of our fast flippity-flop flips. Our first flip photo was taken from Frank's flip phone. I've even seen a stuntman flip from a 40-foot Ferris wheel for free. So it's all these F sounds with the alliteration, and every time it's color. I know it's backward, but it's going to be pink every time they're using that F sound, so the kids are seeing like it's starting with that same sound. Sometimes it's PH and sometimes it's F, so that's even another realization that it's the sound, not necessarily the letter that's making that alliteration. So while alliteration is talking, idiom just comes up out of nowhere, and idiom is green, and so he comes up, or she, and he's like, alliteration talking about all these flips and the stuntman that they saw, and idiom's like, so the stuntman did it just like that at the drop of a hat. And since idiom is green, when it says at the drop of the hat, that's green, since that is an idiom. So they see that that's the part that's an idiom. And alliteration's like, well, I welcome your wondrous question, but wonder whatever you could mean and who you are and where you wander from. So he's just confused, or she is confused by idiom question at the drop of a hat, because that's not literal, that's figurative speech here. And idiom's like, I'm idiom. You should be careful with your question. Curiosity killed the cat. Well, then alliteration can be more confused, because he's like, killed the cat? Oh, my cranium is feeling completely crushed with your confusing comment. What cat? I'm just trying to figure out what cat. And idiom's like, well, here, I'm not off my rocker. We just maybe don't see eye to eye. So I think you should just take what I say with a grain of salt. So there's 3 more idioms. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but keep going. Then onomatopoeia, this is going to be another favorite part, I think. Out of nowhere, onomatopoeia just squeezing through the crowd or squeezing through the narrators. It has it here and then going beep, 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 and trying to get to the front. And then onomatopoeia gets to the front, and then it bumps into one of the narrators. And he's like, oh, excuse me, did you need something? And he's like, yeah, so my name's Onomatopoeia, and I have some question for alliteration, with alliteration story here about the stuntman. So he turns and he's like, so when you do flip, when you flip into the water, do you hit it with a splat or with a plop, or do you just go splat? Does it splash? And he's just using all these sounds, kind of onomatopoeia, it's these different sounds. So onomatopoeia is blue, and you can see in that little section there's all these different sounds that he's using in his speech. And then the last character, who just kind of comes in randomly too, is Oxymoron. And Oxymoron, another fun one, because he's totally confusing even the narrators. Because he comes up and he's like, they're like, I think alliteration is like feeling a little overwhelmed with all of onomatopoeia's question. And then he says, yes, alliteration is just clearly confused. And then the narrators are like, wait, do you mean clearly or do you mean confused? Because those are opposite things. And Oxymoron keeps going with it, and he's like, oh yeah, he talked about random order, and then he said, I'm awfully good at understanding typically odd situation. And they're like, wait, you can't be awful and good at the same time, or do you mean it's typical or do you mean it's odd? So Oxymoron confusing them throughout the whole thing, and it's kind of silly, he keep going with it. And then as they keep going on, alliteration gets really overwhelmed and starts to feel pretty discouraged. And this is where that life lesson piece comes in, because even though this is a silly skit and it's really just making the concept concrete, there's also a little bit of a life lesson in this one, because alliteration is just feeling overwhelmed because he or she is not understanding oxymoron comments or idioms, expressions, or even onomatopoeia. Why is he making all those noises and no sound? And so they come to it and they're like, I think alliteration is feeling overwhelmed and we need to slow down for a minute and figure out what's happening. And alliteration's like, I should share that I am sheepish and shy sometimes when I'm not as sharp as those who are shining around me. You all have shiny, shimmery speech, and I feel like I'm just a shadow in this show. And so alliteration's starting to feel just like he or she's not good enough, and their speech is just not as cool and complex as some of these other ones. So then all of the friends start helping out alliteration and like, I don't know why you would feel that way. We feel so bad because you talk in tongue twisters, which is really awesome. It takes a lot of thought to be able to make all your words start with the same sound. And then using idiom, try to encourage as well and say, yeah, I just think you got confused in the heat of the moment. But I heard straight from the horse's mouth that you were one of the most fun figurative language friend. You're creative, you're fun, you're smart, you got the whole 9 yards. So he's still using these idioms, but really encouraging alliteration. So then in response, alliteration is encouraging idiom's unique style by saying, thank you, idiom. Your speech is so special. You're speedy to spit out this riddle talk with specific spread of meaning. You're like a spy with this mystery speaking. And they keep going back and forth. Onomatopoeia is encouraging. They're encouraging him, like, yeah, we shouldn't groan or moan, not a peep of comparing ourselves to each other, because we're all unique in our style. And then the narrators finish it off by all sharing why they love each specific language friend and how they are unique and what they do, how they add to our language in that unique way. So it's a silly skit. It has your kids up and moving around, making noises, using it. It's all color-coded. They get to wear these headbands, but it also has a little bit of a life lesson of why we're all unique, and we need that. We all need to be different to add to everything. So I have seen this done several different ways. There are 8 parts, so depending on how big your class is, you can do this as a literacy center, if you have 8 kids in the center, or they can do 2 parts if you need. You can split it however you want. I've also done it where I print enough copies so the whole class can do it, and if you have like 24 kids, you can just split them into 3 separate groups and they're all doing it at the same time, but they get to do the different part. I split it between, I have a smaller class, so I made enough for 2 because I have 15 kids, so they do it, half the class is working on it on one side, half the class is working on the other, and they like to share with each other. Or another way is, there is a different figurative language skit that's already in my store that has metaphor and simile, I'm trying to think, personification and hyperbole. It has those 4. So if you want to just do a big review or a big lesson on figurative language, you could have half of them doing that one, half doing the other one, and then they present for each other so they can see it. And since, like I said, they have those headbands on, it really helps the audience. So if the audience does not have the script, which I like them to always have it, but if they don't, at least they can see who that person is. So when Oxymoron is using Oxymoron throughout the whole skit, the audience is seeing that that's who this is, so that way the audience is learning as well. So since it just got put up, it is 30% off until tomorrow when I get to work. As soon as I get to work in the morning, it's going to go back to its regular price. So if you are interested in this skit, this is probably the cheapest you'll find it. Also, if you don't have any of these skits, there's finally one huge bundle with all 4 of the language skits. So like I said, the first 2 are covering parts of speech. So they have verb, noun, pronoun, conjunction, preposition, interjection. It has the 8 parts of speech, and they're very silly. Those are some of those are my original, and I really love them. The kids still have all those parts memorized, and whenever we talk about verbs and nouns in my class, or pronouns, or even conjunction, they remember that because they remember the skit. So for example, preposition, that character is everywhere during a skit. So, and he's always saying where he or she is. So it might be like, I'm under the table, or I agree from over here, or I'm between you guys now, and preposition is just moving around. So now when we're looking for the prepositional phrase, it's really easy for my kids to remember that because they love that part of preposition just popping out in the different places. It's always about like location of where they are, and that helps them with the prepositional phrase, understanding it later. So all 4 skits are in one huge bundle, and that is the cheapest way you can get all 4. So if you don't have any of them, if you just buy them all 4 in a bundle together, you get all of them in black and white and in color coded in different types of fonts, and with all the headbands for all 4 right there in my store. So the link to this specific skit is right here on this video, or you can find the link to my store here on this Facebook page. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can send me a message on here, or feedback on TPT, or I love Instagram, so you can find lots of pictures and information on Instagram as well. All right, thanks for joining in. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.